Today, we have 5 ifs. If the Chiefs do these 5 things, I think they will win the Super Bowl in 2023 and go back to back. How cool would that be? This is Gary McKenzie, Gridiron Lines, RGR Football, your host for today's show. And let's go ahead and jump into it. So, last year, going into the 2022 season, I said that the Chiefs defense had to perform if they wanted to win a Super Bowl in 2022. What do you know? Throughout the regular season, I was continuously harping on the Chiefs defense, saying they had to improve, and then the season kind of ended, and then the playoffs started, and just everything seemed to click for the defense at that point in time, and they ended up playing their best game of the season versus the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. In that game, Trent McDuffie had just one of the best games of his career, and one of the best games of any Chiefs defensive back, I would say, probably in the last 5 years. If you go back and watch the tape, Trent McDuffie made, I think, 4 or 5 plays that just really stopped the Bengals' drives, stopped them dead in their tracks, and they ended up having to punt. And so we said going into 2022, the Chiefs defense, with all these young players have to come through. And at the end of the season, they did exactly that. So I want to talk about 2023. What are the narratives going to be? What are the things that the Chiefs need to take care of so that they can have their best chance of winning a Super Bowl in 2023? And the first thing I'm going to say is, if the Chiefs wide receiver group comes through with this kind of mishmash of players that they have, if they step up and perform and are productive for Patrick Mahomes, then the Chiefs will have a better chance of winning the Super Bowl. So what does that mean? There's a lot of players on this Chiefs wide receiver group who have a fairly high ceiling and have a lot of potential. You know, you've got players like Kadarius Toney, you've got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, you've got Richie James, you've got Sky Moore, you've got Justin Ross, you've got Rashee Rice. All these players have potential to be, wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. And so that is unusual for you to have 5 or 6 guys who could fill that role. I think that this Chiefs wide receiver group with Andy Reid, at the controls, is going to have success this year, and he's going to do it by death by committee. There's not going to be one guy that defenses have to spy on. He's going to take advantage of whatever the defenses give him. Patrick Mahomes is experienced enough to find the open guy, make those throws. And so I think that this wide receiver group will come through. They may not have a single wide receiver who has 1,000 yards receiving, but that's okay. I think the group as a whole will produce. The next if the Chiefs pass rush can produce similar to what they did in 2022, then they will have a good chance of making it to the Super Bowl. So the pass rush is one component of the Chiefs defense that really played well last year. So I tip my cap to Steve Spagnuolo. The Chiefs were second in the NFL in sacks last season. And, the only blue chip pass rusher I believe they had last season was Chris Jones. Now, that doesn't mean I hate Frank Clark. I just think that at that point in time in Frank Clark's career, he had a hard time, being super productive. And the Chiefs had one blue chip pass rusher in Chris Jones, and they were still able to be second in the NFL in total sacks. That's because Spagnuolo is very creative in how he uses blitzes. L'Jarius Sneed, I think, had 3 or 4 sacks, and there are other players in the Chiefs secondary who had sacks. So he found a way to produce with that group. If the Chiefs defense can continue to do that next season, continue to get after the quarterback, if players like George Karlaftis take another step, if Felix Ndubuike-Uzomah can take, some steps towards progressing during his rookie season, finishing the season strong, I think that really helps the Chiefs' chances. And so this group of pass rushers for the Chiefs has a lot of potential, and I'm more excited about this group and the potential that they have than probably any other Chiefs pass rush group I can remember since maybe the Justin Houston era. There's a lot of talent in this group. I'm excited to see what they can do. But I think the first two ifs that we mentioned are really the crux of the Chiefs' 2023 season. Can the wide receivers come through? What is the wide receiver group going to be like? And then what is the pass rush going to be like? A lot of the other things we kind of know. The next if is super simple, and it's probably the most obvious and easy to think of one, and that is if Mahomes stays healthy, the Chiefs have a chance to win the 2023 Super Bowl. I think any year Mahomes is the Chiefs quarterback with Andy Reid being the head coach, they're in it. They're in the competition for a Super Bowl. They should be favored, in my opinion, to win a Super Bowl. If Mahomes is, still in his prime and Andy Reid is still coaching. That's just who Mahomes is. That's just who the Chiefs are with Mahomes. They are a Super Bowl contender every year. Mahomes is playing quarterback and he is healthy. Which brings me to my next if. If Donovan Smith plays left tackle like he did prior to 2022, the Chiefs should win a Super Bowl or have a good shot of winning a Super Bowl. I say this because last year Donovan Smith played left tackle for the Bucs, and his tape and his play left a lot to be desired. However, there's been discussions about his injury history and the potential that the likelihood that he played a lot of last season hurt. And I don't know about you, but anything I'm doing, if I'm aching or hurting, I don't do it as well. And I couldn't imagine playing NFL football against, the greatest athletes in the world, pass rushers, and being hurt and trying to win doing that. And I say the greatest athletes in the world regarding pass rushers because that's typically what pass rushers are. They're the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, most athletic. The combination of all those traits, the strongest combination of all those traits make them a good edge rusher. So they're not always the fastest. They're not always the biggest. They're not always the strongest, but they're the greatest combination of those. So if you want to have a good pass rusher, they need to have, good marks in all of those areas. And that's why I think that pass rushers are the best athletes on an NFL roster, because of they have a combination of all traits instead of just one. So imagine being hurt and trying to stop a guy like that. I think that, Donovan Smith's year last year is not telling. I think that his work prior to that is more telling of what he can do. If he can stay healthy, then the Chiefs should have a player who can play a serviceable left tackle. I don't think that Donovan Smith, is going to be the next, Willie Rove, but he could be serviceable. And this is what the Chiefs needed. The Chiefs have filled kind of a stopgap with Donovan Smith while they try to sort out their future at the position. Pretty much every other position along the offensive line is set for the next couple of years at least, except for the left tackle. So if Donovan Smith can play like he did prior to 2022, I think that gives the Chiefs a really good shot of winning the Super Bowl. And then lastly, the last if, the fifth if you will, if the Chiefs' defensive backs can continue improving and don't have a sophomore slump. So if Trent McDuffie, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, if those three, that trifecta of players can continue their growth, continue getting better, continue playing the secondary well, learning spag systems more and more, becoming more comfortable back there, I think that the Chiefs have a good shot of winning the Super Bowl. If they do any mixture of these things, I think it boosts their chances. But obviously the most important thing is Mahomes staying healthy. If he can do that, the Chiefs are going to be in competition for the Super Bowl every year. But the narratives coming out of camp and going into camp and starting through the season, they're going to be the same. It's going to be, will this wide receiver group produce for Mahomes? Can the pass rushers generate a pass rush similar to what they did in 2022? Can Donovan Smith play left tackle at a high level still after a lackluster 2022 season? And then the trifecta of rookie defensive backs, how do they pan out? A bonus if I would say Isaiah Pacheco. If Isaiah Pacheco continue what he did in 2022, then that'll help the Chiefs as well. So the Chiefs have a lot of interesting pieces. Those are my 5 ifs. If the Chiefs do all those 5 things, I would put, quite a bit of money on the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl next year. I think that they'd be unstoppable, or nearly unstoppable. particularly if the defense plays well. So if the defense comes around, Mahomes' record when the Chiefs have given up 27 or fewer points is something ridiculous. I think going into last year, it was something like, I can't even jump the number, but the winning percentage was about 95%, which is insane. So if the Chiefs' defense plays well enough to hold their opponents to low scores, Mahomes should just run roughshod over the entire NFL. No one will be able to stop him. And we'll see how, the defense pans out next year. We'll see how the wide receiver pans out. I'm excited to see the competition in camp because that's whenever we're going to start to get an idea of, okay, yeah, maybe some of these guys can play. Maybe this is going to be a good year. So I'm looking forward to that. Other than that, I really want to continue to ask the group to try to send me some ideas for predictions. If there's anything you want to see me predict, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know your ifs in the comments. Who do you think? Or what do you think will be, if the Chiefs do this, then they should win the Super Bowl? What do you think those things are? Let me know in the comments. As always, this is Gary with RGR Football. Glad to be here. Glad to talk with you. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll see you again next week. Take it easy.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.